All right, guys, you're live.
All right, good evening. I will now call to order Apex Town Council regular scheduled meeting for Tuesday, October 12th, 2021. And I would like to welcome all those who are in attendance with us this evening. Before we get started, I do want to do an attendance roll call for all council members. So when I call your name, please respond with here. All right, Mayor Pro Tem Dozier.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Killingsworth.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Gant.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Stallings.
Here.
Thank you. And Councilmember Mahaffey.
Here.
All right, all of you are looking great in your pink today. So more information on that shortly. Before we do that, let's do the invocation. And what I want to do is just briefly talk about living your best story. And the reason I want to talk about that is because I passed United Church today on the way to the council meeting, and they have a large mural outside the door, front door, when you walk into the church. And what we're doing here as council members, and of course as a Town of Apex staff, we're helping people live their best story. So my encouragement to all of you that are serving in the peak, continue to do what you've been called to do. This is your assignment. And there are people who are hopeless and often misunderstood, or having a life crisis and on the verge of despair. So I'm asking you to just continue to do your part and your contribution in ensuring that people can live their best story. And again, stay encouraged and focused on love and unity for all people. No labels, just for all people. So I want to thank everyone for what they do each day. And I was overjoyed by seeing town staff members today at the ice cream truck. Fresh local ice cream today served our town staff based on the Leading the Way award that they received a couple of weeks ago. So that was a great sight to see. So keep doing your best. So with that, we'll move now to the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would please post the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we'll move now to presentations. And the first presentation is presentation of Breast Cancer Awareness Month proclamation, which is why we're wearing pink today. So we're going to join in together on a shared reading of the proclamation. And we will start with Council Member Cheryl Stallings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So Breast Cancer Awareness Month 2021. Whereas breast cancer is the second most common cancer affecting women, and whereas 1 in 8 women will develop breast cancer over the course of their lifetime, and 281,550 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in the United States in 2021, and
whereas this year marks the 30th anniversary of the National Breast and Cervical Cancer Early Detection Program, which provides free screenings to low-income and underinsured women, and also to tribal organizations and territories. And
whereas even though advocates and the medical community have helped our nation to make great progress in the fight against cancer, there is still a long way to go before the disease no longer threatens American lives. And
whereas the Affordable Care Act has expanded coverage to millions of women who were previously uninsured and has given millions of women access to preventative services, and
whereas insurance companies can no longer discriminate against women with pre-existing conditions such as breast cancer, and whereas this month we stand in solidarity with breast cancer survivors across the country and reaffirm our commitment to advancing research efforts that deliver hope to patients everywhere.
Now, therefore, I, Jacques K. Gilbert, Mayor of the Town of Apex, do hereby encourage our residents to join in activities that will increase awareness of what we can do to prevent and control breast cancer, and pay tribute to those who have lost their lives to this disease. And if you would, all council members, please come off mute and give us a healthy round of applause for this Breast Cancer Awareness Month 2021. It's important that we continue to support this. And I thank you guys again for joining in with me with the pink. So with that, we'll move now to the second presentation, and it is going to be delivered this evening by Parks and Recreation and Cultural Resources Director Craig Setzer and Angela Reinke, Parks Planning Project Manager. And it's a presentation on the status of the Pleasant Park project, including images and overview of the current project scope. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I'm going to pop up the presentation here. Is everybody able to see that?
Yes, clear mind. Great. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Sounds good. Thank you again, Mayor and Council. Greatly appreciate the opportunity to present to you tonight. So what we're going to go through, we're going through a presentation over our project out at Pleasant Park, and it's an amazing facility. And through this process, you're going to learn about what we have to offer at the facility, as well as where we are currently in the construction process. So master planning for the park began in 2015. The 2017 bond offered the opportunity to construct this facility. At this facility, you're going to see 6 lighted multi-purpose synthetic turf fields, 4 lighted baseball, softball fields with 4 batting cages, 4 lighted tennis courts, 6 pickleball courts. 3 were added during the process of construction because of the continued growth in pickleball. So we started with 3 courts and we expanded that to 6 courts during the process. 2 basketball courts will be offered, 1 sand volleyball court, as well as 1 multi-acre play lawn that will also serve as the start and finish for a 5K course and sits adjacent to a large picnic pavilion that will seat around 250 people. Like I said, this is going to be an amazing facility, and I'm going to move to our next slide and give you an update about where we are in the construction process. So construction started in August of 2020. We've had mass grading occur. We put in infrastructure, including water, sewer, and electrical lines throughout the facility. They're still in process. Retaining walls, because of the grade of the land, we installed numerous retaining walls throughout the location to maximize use of the property. Currently, the multi-purpose fields 4 through 6 have turf and infill material installed along with fencing. Fields 1 through 3 are still in process. They're putting the base layer down, which includes drainage, rock, and then the artificial turf, and then they'll be have infill installed after that, along with fencing materials. The grading for parking lots has occurred for the majority of this phase, and they're just waiting for construction to be completed of the fields, and then we'll start paving in those areas afterwards. Our next slide will show a few more pictures of the facility. So field lighting, field drainage, field fencing, turf fields, and the field membranes are all pictures that you're currently seeing. For us, right now, this is the priority at the facility, is to get the multi-purpose fields to a point where we can move towards the front end of the property. Lighting and scoreboard installation have occurred on all of the fields, and grading of the amenity area has begun and equipment has been ordered for the amenity area. The person who is going to come up next is Angela Reinke, and she's our park planning project manager, and she'll offer you a few more details about the site. So I'm going to turn this over to Angela.
All right, we're gonna see. All right, can everybody see that? Sometimes you lose one thing to get the other. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Sorry. I lost everybody's face when I got my screen. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on Pleasant Park. I'd just like to ask if we could take a moment, if you'd close your eyes, take a few deep breaths. All right, let's imagine a place where everyone is valued for their part of the story and can join in play while experiencing respect and appreciation for their unique contribution to the ever-changing story of imaginative play for all senses. Welcome to the Enchanted Forest at Pleasant Park. Now you can open your eyes. Let's explore. So the adventure awaits for the young and young at heart. We can discover underwater life and explore with shipwrecked pirates to find buried treasures in Splashlantis and our Discovery Dig. They're a combination, but include our town's first water play facility. We're going to climb to the top of the tallest trees in Gnome's Hollow and jump from toadstools and slither down vines and jungles. What awaits on the other side of the rainbow? Palaces and castles and villages of music and merriment, where you can climb to the top of the 35 Emerald Tritopia, which sits in the heart of Pleasant Park. In the Sticks and Stones village, we'll utilize oaks and maple trees harvested from the site as part of this all-organic nature play area. In the Enchanted Forest, the story is never-ending and ever-changing. And in addition to the athletic components of the park, the 1.5-acre Enchanted Forest is made up of 7 play villages that provide inclusive play areas for all ages and abilities. It's unlike any other place in our community. The equipment was ordered from 7 different manufacturers and is coming from all over the world, providing unique and first-of-its-kind play. And we're expecting construction to begin in a few weeks. Switch screens. Oops, there we go. Sorry. All right. Yes, this is a place to play, and yet it is also a programmable space for all ages. Our youngest residents will have the opportunity to participate in story time and then visit the play villages to use imaginative play to act out the characters and places in their minds. Can you hear the fun? With a focus to engage all senses, there is Melody Madness, a musical play village that can provide senior and specialized recreation programming. We have tactile play in Discovery Dig, as well as Sticks and Stone nature play, and within other numerous play structure components. There are color panels for light play, including our donor recognition tree, and a future plan to light the night with a solar tree with light show. Many of our larger play structures have multi-level access to those visitors with limited mobility that can enter and experience play from the bottom or the top, and parents and caregivers can also join in the fun if unable to make the climb. Splashlantis has wet and almost wet play zones, accessible water play components, and areas for our youngest water lovers. Isn't this all so exciting? And it is for me. Being on this project since 2015, I'd like to share that the images that you saw at the beginning of this presentation really are illustrations of the scale and scope of what a developed 92-acre park project can provide and serve for our community. And this project team continues to implement the master plan to provide a facility that will allow all residents to stay and play in Apex. It also works to provide a facility that can generate revenue through regional and national athletic tournaments. And we have a story to tell, and we believe that the project will be an economic driver in the community and attract support services in the mixed-use projects that could provide hotels, restaurants, and shops for visitors to the park and all Apex residents. And with a park this size, we've thought about those first-time visitors. It's got a color-coded system for all the different play zones in the parks. We have the 5K cross-country trail along with other numerous walkways, bridges, and boardwalks that link all the zones together. And coming soon, we're working on an opportunity for residents and businesses to become a partner in play. We are working to put the finishing touches on a gift guide that includes many levels and opportunities to get involved and support Pleasant Park with other park facilities and programs. Thank you for the opportunity to share our Enchanted Forest and Pleasant Park, and Craig and I are here to answer any questions that you might have.
My goodness. I'm gonna start it off with a comment. I think I can say this as mayor. That's fire. I mean, if y'all, that's actually a good term, by the way, if y'all didn't know that. But this is amazing. As you can see, the smiles on the faces of my colleagues. This is, I know, been a long time coming, and I'm excited about it. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues right now. Great job, everyone.
This is, go ahead.
Oh, my turn.
Yes, again, go ahead. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Rinke. That I think it's going to be a gigantic hit. Fire, I guess is the right word. Is it going to be done in phases, or you kind of explained it as if it's going to be all done at once? Is that the case, or is it going to be done over time?
So it'll be done over time. Currently, we're working through phase 2. Actually, y'all voted on GMP 3 at the end of August, which would include everything but baseball and softball, as well as the large shelter.
All right, Councilmember Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm super excited about this park. You guys know I live actually pretty near the area, so this is going to be the closest amenity to me in my neighborhood, and it serves a part of the town which is growing very rapidly, and it's going to be amazing for us and for the town to have this open in the western side of Apex and kind of have a park right next door to us. It's great. So thank you for that, and I just want to congratulate everyone and thank everyone who's worked very hard on this, the project team and all the contractors and everyone who's been working hard on this the past year and a half. I'm really excited. My only question really is, do we have any specific dates when we can expect this Enchanted Forest to be open? I know you just mentioned there's a delay a bit. I'm also a little concerned, you turn on the news today, it's talking about shipping delays and how the ports are backed up. Do you think that might impact the delivery of the materials we need to do this installation, or are we ahead of that?
So I'll touch on a few of those. So summer of 2022, we are hoping that the multi-purpose fields as well as the amenity area will be completed and open to the public. That's the hope. Other than that, I can't give you exact time frames for the other portions of the park, but I can speak to that area of the park. Concerning delays, we actually got an email today. One of our most popular pieces that are in the amenity area has been delayed until November for arrival. That's the one coming from Germany. So I think that there is potential for delays in certain areas, but I couldn't speak to any other specifics at this point.
Just to follow up, is there a seasonal aspect to that in terms of installation? Are we concerned if it gets delayed to November or December? Do we then not able to install because of some of the rain? We got to wait till spring or something like that, or does it not really matter? It'll just go in whenever we get it.
Installation of the actual amenities, whether it's playground equipment or other amenities there, that's not really a concern. The concern would be more about the actual surfacing because it does have to be a certain temperature.
Thank you.
And I'll just add to that we had projected for that surfacing to occur in the spring. So having the equipment not started on November, 1st versus 15th isn't going to push back the surfacing timeline. We anticipated that to be spring to summer anyway. So we have some wiggle room in that.
Thank you. Councilmember Stallings.
Just a few comments. Who would not love this? I mean, this is amazing. Thank you all so much for all the work that has gone into this. And I don't think you've left anybody out. And that's what Apex is all about, right? The inclusion and diversity appreciation. It sounds like there's something for everyone. And that's what's going to make this so special. And so thank you so much for all the work. And it's also great for, I think, our residents to see the results from the bonds that we have passed collectively, with this materializing, as well as our senior center, of course, that's going to be opening shortly. So it's so great to see these things materialize. For our newer residents, if anyone is listening, could you give us the address of the park? Does it have an official address yet? Maybe
I
not.
honestly don't know if we have an official address. Angela, do we have an official address?
I want to say it's 6200 Pleasant Plains Road.
Okay. That sounds.
Thank you, Angela.
But
That's a
But we
great
do
question.
warn people, it's an active construction site with lots of, right now, especially a lot of dump trucks with gravel going to fill the parking lots and the fields. So if you go to view with caution.
Right. So we're not inviting people quite yet, it sounds like, but thank you for that. And then this lastly, for the competitive tournaments, are you envisioning which sports? I'm assuming baseball, softball, is there soccer options, or what do you envision for that with the tournaments?
Well, I think thoughts are kind of endless with what type of tournaments that we could actually offer. I mean, we could go soccer, lacrosse, we could handle baseball, softball. With the multi-purpose fields, I will tell you the fields are 120 yards long as well as 70 yards wide. So they are really large fields that can accommodate almost FIFA regulation size soccer. So we can accommodate quite a bit.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier, she is having technology issues, so audio only from her. So go ahead, ma'am.
So can y'all hear me okay now? Without the camera?
It sounds very, it's a lot of static.
Oh gosh. Okay, so I won't speak much, but I just wanted to say that it's really nice to see this. That I was on the council where we got to see be part of the charrette, and got to see what was possible here, and just thinking about some of us we were soccer parents and had to take our kids in all these other towns, even just to practice. So this is great, for the community and in this location. So anyway, I'll just log off and apologize for all these tech issues. Not log off, but stop speaking.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We heard every word. Councilmember Killingsworth.
I just wanted to say I'm just super excited. We have basically something for everyone here, all ages and abilities. We have a walking court, our walking area here, and paths, and I'm just super excited to see this come to fruition. I can't wait to be able to go out and enjoy this park, and I hope everyone else does too once it's ready and once it's open.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I know this was started in 2015. I'm getting messages. I have to acknowledge a recent retiree, Mr. John Brown, as I know he was part of this vision as well. And then Mr. Dennis Brown is our construction manager that oversees our project. So I do want to acknowledge him as well. So, but thank you so much, Mr. Setzer and Ms. Rinke, for an excellent presentation. And we're super excited.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move now to consent agenda. And all consent agenda items are considered routine to be enacted by one motion with the adoption of the consent agenda and without discussion. If a council member requests discussion of an item, the item may be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. With that, I have not received any updates to pull anything from the consent agenda. So with that, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Mahaffey, motion to approve.
Second, Killingsworth.
Okay, we got a motion and second. In discussion? All right. All in favor indicate by saying aye. We do it through a roll call. All right. All opposed, no. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Killingsworth.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Gant.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Stallings.
Aye.
Thank you. And Councilmember Mahaffey.
Aye.
Thanks. All right, passed unanimously. We now move to setting of the regular meeting agenda. Again, I have not received any information to change the the regular meeting agenda or add on anything. So with that, I will also accept a motion to accept the regular meeting agenda as presented.
A motion to approve Gant.
All right, motion to approve Gant.
Second Stallings.
Second Stallings. All right, discussion. All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye, opposed no. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Killingsworth.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Gant.
Aye.
Councilmember Stallings.
Aye.
Councilmember Mahaffey.
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously. We now move to the public forum. And to my knowledge, I was actually updated earlier that we don't have any recorded statements tonight for public forum. So with that, we'll close that and move now to public hearings. So with that, we'll start with public hearing number 1. And this public hearing, a possible motion to amend the bicycle and pedestrian system plan map to change the bicycle and pedestrian facility type along the east side of Laura Duncan Road, north of Old Apex Road, and add the Swift Creek Greenway, So that's being presented tonight by Jenna Schaus, Senior Long Range Planner.
Hi, good evening. I'll share my screen real fast. Is my screen popping up on your end?
Yes.
It is. Okay, great.
Yes, you did.
Awesome. Good evening. Thanks for having me. I'll be presenting for public hearing number 1, a public hearing and possible motion regarding amendments to the bicycle and pedestrian system plan map in the vicinity of Laura Duncan Road. So here's a map showing the proposed amendments. First, to provide some orientation. So we're looking at the area or the northeast corner of Apex where it meets Cary. So everything in white is the town of Cary, in addition to Laurel Park Elementary School. So we're specifically looking at and then Apex is everything in the different shades of green. So we're specifically looking at the area on the east side of Laura Duncan Road, north of Old Apex Road. So the proposal is to change proposed street side greenway to proposed side path. And the purpose of this change is to provide a consistent facility along the east side of Laura Duncan Road. So down further south in Apex, fronting the community park, there's an existing side path. And then once you get into Cary, the facility type changes to a street side greenway, or that's the designation on their plan. But here's a screenshot from Google Street View of the facility that's currently in place in front of Laurel Park Elementary. So this functions more as a side path. It's the typical wide path with the utility strip. And what we typically see with a street side greenway is more of a meandering path with a buffered landscaping, excuse me. So even though it shows as a street side greenway south of Laura Duncan Road in the town of Cary, it serves more as a side path. So we're proposing to change that to a side path once you get back into the Apex jurisdiction north of Old Apex Road. And then the second part of this proposed amendment is to add proposed greenway from Laura Duncan Road to the west. So this is part of the Swift Creek Greenway, and then it enters into the town of Cary just right here. So this is really just to match our plans with the town of Cary's plans so that we have consistency among the two towns' plans. And at their September 29th meeting, the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Advisory Commission unanimously recommended approval of these proposed amendments. And last night, Planning Board unanimously recommended approval, and Planning staff recommended approval as well. So I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, any questions for Michelle? All right, hearing none. With that, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for this item. And are there any recorded comments for this item?
No, I've not received any.
Okay. All right, with that, we'll close public hearing for comment, and it's back to council for discussion, lead to a possible motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve these planned amendments. Stallings.
All right, motion Stallings,
I'll second that. Killingsworth.
second Killingsworth. All right, further discussion on it. All right, hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye, opposed no. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Killingsworth.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Gant.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Stallings.
Aye.
Thank you. And Councilmember Mahaffey.
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, move now to public hearing number 2. Ms. Schaus.
Thank you. So for public hearing number 2, this is a public hearing and possible motion regarding amendments to the bicycle and pedestrian system plan map to complete a connection from the Beaver Creek Greenway to downtown Apex. So to provide some orientation where we're looking at West William Street, just west or north of South Salem Street and south of Olive Chapel Road. And there are a few components to this amendment. So the first is to realign proposed greenway in and around Apex JC Park. And the purpose of this realignment is to set up the greenway for a future potential proposed grade separated bicycle and pedestrian crossing of West William Street, as well as to line up the greenway with areas where we have existing greenway easements. So then in the future, we could potentially extend the greenway along these green dashed lines. The next part of this amendment is to add a proposed grade separated bicycle and pedestrian crossing of West William Street, kind of between Apex JC Park and the Lake Ridge Apartments. And to provide some more context, I have this map. So the purpose of this crossing, or it's shown here, kind of in a more zoomed out map with this red star. So the purpose of this crossing would be to provide a safe and convenient way for pedestrians to get on either side of, or to cross West William Street. And so the closest existing signalized crossing of West William Street is at Olive Chapel Road, and then the other one is at South Salem Street. And they're both about 0.4 of a mile away from the proposed crossing. So this is a pretty central location. And as part of the NC 55 widening plans, there are no plans to add any new signals. So it would remain signals at West Williams and Olive Chapel and West Williams and South Salem. The next part of this proposed amendment is to add side path along the east side of West William Street from the Public Works Building just north of Upchurch Road down to South Salem Street. And there are a few constraints in this area due to existing conditions, so just want to bring those up. Here are some snips from the current existing conditions. So this is on the left is an aerial view of West William Street. So you can see the right-of-way line in black, and there are a few gray sites that are very close to the existing right-of-way line. And then here's some snips from Google Maps from Street View. You can see the terrain on the east side of West William Street, or the existing conditions. And then to provide some context of what the current plans are, or the latest plans are for the NC 55 widening project. So this is a snip from the 25% plans, the latest that we have from DOT, and provide some orientation for that map, for this map, excuse me. To the right is north and to the left is south. And so this side is the side where we're proposing to add side path. And there are some constraints in here. So this town of Apex property is where there's an existing cemetery. And then there also is existing cemetery. And then there are also some grave sites on this Seymour property. And as part of the widening plans, DOT has a barrier wall along here fronting the cemetery property, shown with this black and white dashed line. And then, so right now it's shown as sidewalk. So that's inside of the barrier wall, and then it extends along West William Street as part of this plan. So if we adding side path to the plan would open up the conversation to have a wider facility along the east side of West William Street. It's very unlikely that we'd be able to have a full 10-foot wide path because there's really not room between the barrier wall and the curb, but this may open up the conversation to extend the path from that barrier wall to the curb. And then as you get away from the barrier wall, we may be able to have a wider path, but not sure if we could really get the full 10 feet, but potentially something wider than the proposed 5-foot path. So with the addition of the side path on our plan, we're not proposing to expand the footprint of the 55 widening project, rather to utilize the proposed footprint and add a wider path between where it's proposed and the curb, or within the proposed right of way, not to expand the right of way or the impact of this project. And then, okay, so kind of to summarize the proposed amendments. So the bike ped grade separated crossing and the side path. So the purpose of the bike ped grade separated crossing is to complete a bicycle and pedestrian connection from the Beaver Creek Greenway and Apex JC Park to downtown Apex. And then, as I've mentioned, the NC 55 preliminary plans do not include any new traffic signals between Olive Chapel Road and South Salem Street. So this would provide a more convenient way for people to get across 55. And then the downtown plan includes a multimodal center at the intersection or in the vicinity of South Salem Street and Harwood Street. And here's a rendering of that facility. And I'll go back to the map to kind of give an idea of where we're looking. So the downtown plan proposes it down here in the vicinity of Harwood and South Salem Street, and the addition of side path along the east side of West William Street would provide a new bicycle and pedestrian connection to that facility, which is crucial for its success in the future. So the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Advisory Commission unanimously recommended approval of these proposed amendments at their September 29th meeting. And last night, Planning Board also unanimously recommended approval, and planning staff recommend approval as well. So I'm here to answer any questions that you may have about these proposed amendments.
All right, thanks, Jenna. Excellent presentation. Councilmember Killingsworth.
I had a quick question about with the expansion of 55 through here, and you may not know this answer, but just let me know. Is the plan to relocate some graves to expand 55 through here?
I don't know, and I don't think that shows up on here. I'm not sure if they're going to need to move any graves or not. I can get back to you with an answer to that question. I don't know if there's anyone on the phone right now who knows that. I don't think Russell's joined us. I don't know.
Okay,
Shannon,
and then you said that with the request for side path instead of just a sidewalk, we're not expanding the footprint, correct?
That would be our intention, not to expand the footprint or to cause more impact to the cemetery property, rather to just utilize the existing footprint or right of way that's proposed as part of this project to have a wider bike ped facility.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Councilmember Gant.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Ms. Schaus, for the presentation. So I consider the at-grade crossing of the Peakway of Beaver Creek to be a huge missed opportunity for the town to make that a safer crossing. So I like the idea of a non-at-grade crossing over major roads. But I've stared at this map of the Beaver Creek Greenway to get to downtown probably 100 times. And I'm skeptical a little bit that I assume the expense of a grade separated crossing in this area would be tremendous. And I assume it would go under because of where the creek is. But it doesn't really end anywhere. It kind of ends and it stops. I was wondering, is it even realistic to put this on our plans, unless it's going to be part of the 55 widening at that time? Is it make sense to put in our plans when we're never going to build it? And I'm kind of skeptical we're ever going to build it, because the 0.4 miles is achievable, not the best, but like, yeah. I guess my first question is, are they going to, if we have this on our plans, are they going to build this when they widen 55? Is the first question.
Well,
or put in like half of the tunnel.
Today, planning staff discussed this with Parks and Rec and Public Works, and the thought is that this kind of opens up the conversation with DOT, and that potentially they could incorporate it into the design for that project. So it's possible that it could be completed beforehand, but it sounds like staff's recommendation at this point is to request or coordinate with DOT for it to be included as part in the design of the widening project.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine doing this, but if it's not part of that project, I'm skeptical it'll ever happen, because I don't know how much it'll cost, especially however long it's gonna take to build that road. But because it doesn't end anywhere. I mean, I think most of these major grade separated crossings connect two pieces of greenway. In this case, it's only going to connect one and then cross the road, and that's about it. And I really wish that greenway connected all the way downtown. I haven't found a path myself. It looks like there's not a path here for that. So I guess the question would be, I think looking back at this, when they widen 55, whether it was part of the project or not, maybe warranted.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, hearing none. I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for the comments for this item. And do we have any recorded or email statements?
Yes, there was one that was emailed, and it was sent to town council as well from Karen Manganillo on Sunday.
Okay. Any questions from council on that email that was sent? You should have all received it. Okay. Is that the only one?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So with that, we'll go ahead and close public hearing for comments on that item, and we will it's back to council for more discussion if necessary, with a possible motion leading to approval.
I make a motion to approve the plan amendment.
All right.
Stallings.
Motion Stallings.
I'll second that, Killingsworth.
Second Killingsworth. Discussion. All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye, opposed no. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Killingsworth.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Gant.
Aye.
Thanks. Councilmember Stallings.
Aye.
Thanks. And Councilmember Mahaffey.
Aye.
All right, that passed unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Schaus.
Thank you.
All right, we move now to old business 1. And this is a possible motion to approve the purchase of the People's Choice Award winner, Uphill Battle by Ethan Mara from the Apex Sculpture Walk, presented tonight by Tom Caldwell, Public Art Committee Chair.
All right, thank you very much for giving me a few moments today. So I wanted to come back today and make a formal request for a possible motion to purchase the People's Choice Award winner, shown depicted here. This is the sculpture that's located near the skate park at Hunter Street Park, and the cost would be $12,000. Again, the sculpture is called Uphill Battle, and it's by an artist by the name of Ethan Mara. This was the People's Choice Award winner.
All right, can anyone see that on the screen? I can't see it. All right.
I'll share it, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you.
I've got it. I'll share it.
Okay, thanks. All right, any questions from council? Comments? Okay. Any further information, Mr. Caldwell?
No further information on that.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Stallings.
Yes, I just had a follow-up question with the price and what it involves. It sounds like the art would be removed and sort of preserved or cleaned in some way and then brought back for more of a permanent installation. Is that correct?
That is correct. So when it's removed, the artist will sandblast the piece, coat the entire piece, and restore all the paint, and make any minor repairs that there might be to the sculpture, and then reinstall in the we're proposing reinstall in the same location for a permanent installation.
Okay, thank you. Do we envision any maintenance needed down the road for it once it is?
We do not. It is designed to be installed outside and to be in a present location for quite a few years. Perhaps several years down the road, there may be another touch up or paint job type thing required, but there's no ongoing maintenance required for the piece.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, did you have a question?
I'm forgetting that I'm using my phone for audio. No, I was just going to make a motion at the appropriate time. Thanks.
All right, I'll accept that emotion now. You have that motion. You good with the motion?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so I want to make a motion to make this purchase of. No, it's just a great piece, and I just appreciate really having the Arts Committee and having this opportunity. So that's my motion.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. There's second.
I'll second that. Killingsworth.
Second, Killingsworth. Right, further discussion?
Yeah, Mr.
We'll
Mayor.
move to the- Yes, sir. Mr.
I
Mahaffey,
just
go ahead.
wanted to take an opportunity to also express my thanks to Tom and to the Public Art Committee for the work that they've done, putting together, not only this piece, but, gathering the whole sculpture walk that we've had this year. It's been amazing, and I'm really supportive of your efforts here to kind of help Apex build our collection, so to speak, by acquiring these. The cost to me, this seems super cheap. Actually, looking around at some public art projects are, extremely expensive to do this. So this is, I think we're getting a bargain. We're getting a piece that people have chosen, and they, they like it. So just want to say thanks for all your work.
All right, thank you, Councilman. Councilmember Gant.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Tom, I want to echo the thanks for the efforts of our committee. And when I think about this piece, it seems kind of fit for purpose, and also it's an area that's going to get a lot of visibility. So I'm really excited about the people that are going to be able to see this, not only current residents, but people that are going to use this park going forward.
All right, very good. All right, we have a motion second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier.
Aye.
Thank you, Councilmember Killingsworth.
Aye.
Thank you, Councilmember Gant.
Aye.
Thanks, Councilmember Stallings.
Aye.
Thanks, Councilmember Mahaffey.
Aye.
All right, passed unanimously. We now move to old business 2, and this is a possible motion to approve the location brick retaining wall near Apex Police Station for the previously approved Unity mural project. Mr. Caldwell.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the previous approval. I greatly appreciate that. And this is the Unity mural is a mural project that we are doing in partnership with a social justice group from Apex High School and the Apex Police Department. So originally, when I brought this to you a few months ago, we had proposed it at a building in downtown that was not a it was a privately owned building, and we worked with the owner of that facility, and then just couldn't kind of draw to a conclusion there, and so the negotiations kind of withered away, and we've all moved on. And this was brought forward as the alternate location at the time, and we're bringing it forward this time for you to have a look at it, and so that we could possibly get a motion for approval of this location. What you're looking at is a retaining wall that's on the left side of the police station downtown, if you're looking at the police station. And it's a basically a parking lot area that makes a really good location for this for a couple of reasons. One is part of the Unity mural project is for the artist to work with members of this social justice group and the police department to actually paint the mural as well. So to be done professionally by the artist and under the direction of the artist, but with contribution from members of the public. We didn't want to put that at a kind of at a high level. This had, so working off the ground makes it a safe and easier installation. And also is quite a prominent location being downtown. And so it'll get quite a lot of visibility in that regard. So that's the idea. And you can see a little bit of the timeline. The call for artists, if this is approved as a location, we'll release that call for artists within the next week or so. And then it's posts for 2 weeks. we'll have or 2 months, apologies, and then we'll have a review process in selection of that artist. What the artist will be proposing actually is not the piece that they would be painting. They'll show samples of their previous work, but the approach that they'll take in gathering input on what this mural should be, and that input largely coming from the social justice group and the Apex Police Department. Again, theme of unity. And then that proposed work of art would be approved by that team, police department, and the group of students, and then brought forward to the town council for final approval before doing anything in the space. And then the timing, we would hope to have that all completed and the mural actually be painted sometime in the spring. So yeah, I'm open for any questions that you might have on either the project or the location.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to make a comment and thank you for driving this, putting together. I think I expressed to you I was concerned about the location just because of the vehicles parked there to block it, you know, so the community can really see the good work. But I know there's opportunities when there are not many vehicles there, so I'm good with it. But I love the collaboration with everyone involved. So this is needed. I'm excited about it, and again, thank you for putting it together. Council Member Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mayor. Tom, could you go back to the picture of the location again? So can you clarify the scope? Are we talking the entire length of the entire brick wall from, you know, the police building all the way over? Are we talking about like one, you know, 20-foot or 30-foot kind of rectangle location, or
yeah, we're proposing
how does it interact with the parking signs there?
Yeah, it's a good point. That is something that we'll have to work around, is those parking signs, and just make that, you know, somehow encapsulated into the image, and then possibly work on perhaps another way of doing the parking signage as part of the project. But the intent is for it to take up the majority of the wall, but it may not be entirely covered.
Okay, thank you, Council Member Gant.
Thank you, Mayor. Tom, can you speak to whether the first location is a future possibility for a mural, just a different kind, or is it kind of a no-go on that spot, like forever now?
That would really,
for a while?
Yeah, it's a good question. It really would be up to the building owner to take it upon themselves to do something there, or possibly to approach us about an alternative that we'd be happy to, again, re-engage with that owner and look at some other possibilities.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's a great spot for mural, the original one, and hopefully that the committee can work together if there's a future prospect for that spot.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilmember Stallings.
Yes, I just want to echo the comments from my colleagues. I'm very excited about this project, particularly the collaborative nature of it. And as the mayor suggested, Mr. Caldwell, you don't have concerns about the parking, frequency of parking there to block the mural?
There'll be times that there are, you know, cars in the lot. There are also a good percentage of time when it's actually not used and it is an open lot. So that typically seems to be more on the weekends, when people would be maybe more apt to be there and present and see it. But it's also does fortunately go above the cars. And I think when we work with the artist, that's something that we would take into account as part of the design, even to sort of work with that.
Okay, thank you. And does the artist actually do all the work? I mean, it sounds like the content would be a collaborative effort, but is there any opportunity for the public to participate in the actual art, or is it the artist actually going to do the work?
The intent is to have the public to participate in the art as well, but again, under the guidance of the artist, so that it's done in a very professional manner.
Okay, very good. I think this will be a great opportunity. Thank you.
And I do agree with that, Ms. Stallings. So any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, is there a motion?
Motion
Make
to
a motion
approve.
to
This is
approve.
Killingsworth.
All right, I got a motion
Well,
to
I'll
approve
second.
Killingsworth and second Stallings. No more discussion. We'll go ahead and move to a vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye, opposed no. Mayor Pro Tem Dozier.
Aye, this is wonderful.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember Killingsworth.
Aye.
Thank you, Councilmember Gant.
Aye.
Thank you, Councilmember Stallings.
Aye.
Thank you, and Councilmember Mahaffey.
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you both. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
All right. All right, move now to updates by Manager Katie Crosby.
Hello, everyone. How are you this evening? I actually do not have any updates this evening. Just wanted to say things are going really well. We're excited about our celebration yesterday for Indigenous People Day, and encourage folks to look on our website for updates on other events that we have coming up, including a celebration for Hispanic Heritage Month that is happening this Friday in front of the depot. And so I'm looking forward to being out there and enjoying that celebration. So I want to encourage the community to come out and do that. And I just wanted to reiterate the excitement about Pleasant Park. I've been out there a couple of times, and it seems like every time I go out there, there's so much going on and happening so quickly that it's exciting to see all of that work. And so I want to thank Craig and his team, as well as the mayor said earlier, Dennis Brown, for the work that he's doing. And then also, we're really excited about the Senior Center opening in a few weeks and getting ready to celebrate that. So more information to come on that. So thank you to our team of folks that are really moving things forward for the town. And I look forward to seeing everyone out in the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Crosby. All right, that is all we have there. We move now to the work session. So is my understanding, IT, do we move to a different link for this one, or can you give guidance?
No, sir. I believe that sorry, and I'm watching the, let me mute we do have the vendors on. Is that correct, Angela and Craig?
Yes, I've seen some of them on. There you go.
There we go. I will pass it over to them, and I'm here for any assistance needed.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds wonderful. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Town Council. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. The meeting agenda for today has been so exciting to see everything that's happening in Apex and just hear about all the new development that's coming. It's really exciting. So we are here today to kick off our Apex's Comprehensive Parks, Recreation, and Greenways and Open Space Master Plan project with you. Our project or the presentation for today is divided into two components. We'll go over the project process and where we are in a short few slides, and then we have an interactive session with you all as part of our second component. All right, so from our team, we have Mr. Setzer and Ms. Rinke from the town side on this project, and then from the consultant side, it's myself, Shweta Manikar, I'm the project manager on this project. And joining me, we have Dr. Sonia Shah as our community engagement specialist. And then we have Jen Beadle, she's our park planner, who will be helping us with the community engagement component for this project.
Good evening.
All right, so just a little bit about the project and the project process. Why are we taking this project on? So here are some of the benefits that we have listed for you. It is the comprehensive plan, as you know, it's set up for a 10-year planning horizon. It's basically a work plan that is set up for the Parks and Recreation Department to really see where they are, where they came from the past 10 years, where they are right now, and where do they want to go from here, and how do they get there. So we are basically setting up that work plan for them through this planning effort. So through this plan, the basic benefit of it is we are engaging the community from the beginning of the project. We want the community to take ownership of what is coming through this plan. It directly relates to the outcomes of how they play, how they live in the community, and how they enjoy all the parks and recreation amenities within the town. Through this process, we identify and resolve the gaps and deficiencies that exist as a growing community. There are a lot of changes that happen, so we capture all of those through this process. Benchmarking is another component. Where does Apex stand with similar communities across United States? So benchmarking really gives us that idea of setting up the goals and creating aspirational goals for the community to set up that work plan for the next 10 years. We validate the decisions for the parks, recreation, programming, and greenways components with the staff, and making sure that the interdepartmental consensus and everybody is on board when we make those recommendations. Another critical component of that is prioritization. How do we make sure these recommendations that we make are prioritized? Which one takes precedence over something else? And so we will be setting up the implementation plan that will help them prioritize the goals and objectives and move towards implementation. Last but not the least, how do we pay for these? And so looking at grant opportunities and funding pieces, some of the grant requirements include in having a comprehensive park and recreation master plan as part of their requirement. And so this really sets up that stage for applying for those grant opportunities. So what is included in a Parks and Recreation comprehensive plan? So these are some of the key focus areas that are included. The first is parkland and facilities. So as the consultant team, we will be looking at your existing facilities and making some assessment about how these facilities are, what stage are they? Are they, what kind of renovations we want to make so that we enhance the user experience for these existing park sites? Are there any safety issues? Are there any ADA compliance issues? Are there any maintenance items that need to be taken care of? So we'll be assessing your existing park facilities based on that. Some of the other components include values-based approach, making sure that the community's values that come through the community engagement process are reflected in these parks and recreation amenities. Are the existing parks equitable and accessible to the community? Do they provide health and wellness benefits? Are they satisfying the sustainability goals? Are they creating educational resource for youth development within the community? These are some of the examples that I wanted to share with you before we get into the detailed assessment of these parks and facilities, and also making recommendations for the future so that as Apex continues to grow, we want to make sure that the growing needs of the community, diversification amenities are addressed through this plan. Programming is a similar component. We will be looking at your existing programming and finding out if there are gaps that exist. We want to make sure that the current programming aligns with the recreation trends in the 21st century. So assessing your existing programming, how successful it is, are there any gaps in the programming? So we can suggest new programmings for the community. And also if there are any programs that are not successful or not popular, and can they be decommissioned? So all of that assessment will be part of this programming assessment. Operations and maintenance, though it doesn't sound very exciting, it's a very critical component of Parks and Recreation comprehensive plans because Apex has been doing, or the staff has been doing, an excellent job with the current facilities and amenities programs that you have. How do they continue doing that over the next 10 years? What will be the staffing need when some of these new amenities come into play and they have to address your existing facilities and take care of the new? And so we want to make sure the staff feels empowered. So some of the recommendations in operations and maintenance will be related to staffing, policies, procedures, and decision making. Finances and budget. How do we pay for all of these recommendations? So we will be looking at your existing revenues, expenditures, and making recommendations about funding opportunities, as I mentioned earlier, looking at grant opportunities to create those funding mechanisms for the recommendations. And then the last, but not the least, the Greenway Trails component. Apex has been at the forefront. We saw at our initial community engagement meeting, everybody is asking for more greenways and trails. And so this is a critical component of this plan. We will be looking at your existing network, looking at where the gaps exist, how we can close those gaps, and then work with the staff to come up with prioritization criteria where you can start to implement these projects gradually so the gaps can be closed within the next 10 years as much as possible. This slide shows the planning process. Basically, it's divided into 4 milestones to say. We are right now at the very initial stage of it in the data collection process. We attended your Pig Fest festival, connected with the community through that. And then we had 2 asset mapping sessions with the staff. This is our 3rd asset mapping session with you all. Last week, we finished our first community engagement process. And then we will be getting into a little more detail on some of the key focus areas that I just discussed into that assessment component of that. Based on all of these findings, we will be developing a vision and the guiding principles that reflect the community values and creating the goals and objectives that not only are related to the Parks and Recreation Department, but they span across the Town of Apex's department, so that they are aligned with all the town-wide initiatives and they're reflected through those values as part of the guiding principles. The next component would be the recommendations. So the key focused areas, they will be coming up with recommendations and prioritization component for that, for those recommendations. The last item would be the council adoption for that. Across the board of these 4 milestones will have community engagement touch points. And then we will be meeting with you all as well at different milestones and keep you updated on what we find and the recommendations and get your feedback before the plan comes out to you for adoption. So what does the role for you all looks like here? So basically we are saying that you all bring the awareness to the planning process here, being involved with this. You can relay all this information to your constituents. I see some laughs, probably some memories with the Tree City USA program. It was such a great photo here that was shared with us. So, all right, well, going back to the role of the council, just relay information to your constituents and the residents and your networks, so people can be encouraged to attend the community events and provide us feedback as much as they can. And then get all of your input through the sessions like these, and then finally adopt the plan at the end of our 12 to 15 month planning effort. So that was our short cut and dry presentation. Now comes the fun part. When you talk about Parks and Recreation, it has to be fun. So The fun part is left for Sonia and Jen, who are going to take over the asset mapping interactive session.
Before you do that, looks like we have a question for Mr. Gann. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is the right time or not to ask a question, but I kind of had a couple questions about what you previously said. One is, my understanding is some of the federal grants require a plan that's been adopted within 5 years, and you mentioned a 10-year horizon. So, can you speak to, like, is my impression wrong about the 5-year thing? And also, if it is there some kind of part of the plan that's going to say, okay, we'll do like a re-up after 5 years? And then I have a second question as well. Maybe answer that one first, if you don't mind.
Yes, that's a good question. So if there are any grants specifically the federal grants that require 5-year planning horizon, we will be looking at some amendments or updates at that 5-year cycle. And if not, typically the Parks and Recreation master plans are slated for 10-year. So anything related, let's say a part of grant, which is a state funded grant. So for that, a 10-year plan is valid.
And my other question is, so we've heard a lot about pickleball, but I know there's a movie in the works with Will Smith about the Williams sisters and how they became, tennis stars. And I believe if that movie's popular, it will potentially explode the popularity in tennis, just like the chess thing in Netflix increased the chess awareness. So how do you guys, and how are towns, how do you recommend us to try to, and I know it's hard probably to account for these kind of uncertain but potential high impact events like that?
That's a great question. And typically that does happen. Like when you have after 4 years, you have the Olympics, suddenly some game becomes popular and the demand for those kinds of program increases. From the planning perspective, we will have to look at the various focus area components that we looked at earlier here. So when we are looking at, let's say, the benchmarking component, we are looking at apex from similar communities across the United States. What are they doing? But at the same time, we want to make sure the recommendations that we make are unique to apex. And by that, we mean if apex can handle a large tennis complex from their operations and maintenance perspective, from their programming perspective, from their staffing perspective, then you can make a recommendation to construct a tennis complex because there is that much of demand. The other component of that is what is the creating a business plan for that, how that facility that you are constructing going to survive, what is the revenue potential that it's creating, how much expenses are you doing on that. And so all of these initial assessment pieces will help inform anything like a tennis complex or an aquatic complex or larger sports complex that's focused on certain sports areas. You have to look at the feasibility studies of those and then make a decision based on that.
Thank you.
Council Member Mahaffey.
Thank you, Mayor. So I guess my question relates to how our plan, maybe it's a little early to ask this. I know we're just getting started in the process and we're kind of just discussing what's going to happen. My question is how does our plan, how will it relate and how will the study relate to other government entities doing similar things, specifically, the county, to a lesser extent, the state. The county also has a parks and, open space and greenways master plan. And something I'm always paranoid about is us doing something which is duplicative of what the county is going to do and might have an effect, push out county dollars and just replace it with local dollars, and then, not really have a net gain in the long-term kind of amenities available to our citizens. I don't want to just build buy and build some open space that the town runs when the county would have done the same thing. So I know it's kind of a high level thing to ask at this time, but are there any plans to sort of see how we integrate in the larger county picture and make sure we're not being duplicative, or are there opportunities to kind of, cooperate there? Is that on anyone's radar?
That's a great question, Mr. Mahaffey. So in the programming component that you see here, one of the big pieces is assessing, we call it similar provider analysis. So we look at the jurisdictions around town of Apex, what they are providing. Part of that will be also what is Wake County providing. And so through that similar provider analysis, there will be the recommendations that come out of it that will help you prioritize what town of Apex needs.
Thank you.
Okay, Sweta, are we ready to get started with asset mapping?
Right.
Good evening, Mayor Gilbert and Council. So glad to be with you tonight. This is one of the fun parts of the planning process that we do with staff, focus groups, along with our councils, and we call it asset mapping. And during this process, we get to know the town, we get to know your staff, your councils, your community organizations, and during that process, we talk with them about, what do they think is going well in town? What are the things they think may need some improvement or could be tweaked slightly? So during this process, we take you through a series of questions, and we want you at that point, and Sweta, you can move to the next slide. We want you to really focus on the assets that exist within Apex, and you all have a number of wonderful assets that exist within the town. Just the community organizations and individuals who stop by during Peak Fest to participate in the boards that we had available. We've had opportunities to look at your spaces and your facilities, all the events that you have that create home and create a sense of place for your residents. All of those are important when we start thinking about how Parks and Rec presents itself for your citizens, for your visitors. And today we're going to spend some time thinking about what your strengths are and really hoping to identify where the gaps exist in your Parks, Recreation, Greenway, and open space system. So with that, Sweta has already forwarded you all the questions, and we'll just review those before we get started. The first will be, what about Parks, Recreation, Cultural Resources, and Greenways makes your community better? The next question is, what is your Parks, Recreation, Cultural Resources, and Greenways system known for? Another question, what would strengthen the department's positive impact on the town of Apex? And what are some of the biggest threats or challenges to those assets have you identified? And then we'll end the session looking at the commonalities and themes that exist across all of our questions, and we'll know at that point what your responses are telling us about Apex's Parks, Recreation, Cultural Resources, and Greenway systems, and we'll use that to build, as Sweta has shared, recommendations as a part of the comprehensive plan, and we'll use these responses as a part of it. So with that, we are going to go through Concept Board. And with Concept Board, we'll walk you through kind of what Concept Board is if you're not familiar with it. It's one of the virtual platforms that we use. There's a link that you all should have received. And if you want to click on that link, we're going to walk you through getting logged in. So does everyone have the link? Can I get a thumbs up? Is that a yes?
Can you remind us when you sent the email real quick?
And who sent the email?
It should have come from the town.
I believe Manager Crosby sent it maybe a couple of days ago. Let me see if I can find mine.
It came from Lisa. It came on 10/7.
I would drop the link in the chat,
Thank
but I
you.
don't think we have that ability.
You do have that ability. You can certainly drop it in the chat forum. Chat is also not displayed externally.
Okay.
There we go.
It says it's muted, but that's okay.
Looks like Terry has dropped the link in.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. All right, so if you'll click on that link, it's going to take you to a new window. And the first thing you'll see will be the guest access, and we want you to select guest. You can click on that, add your name in. And once you've done that, it will take you directly to concept board. And you'll see the questions that we pose will be in there, along with sticky notes. And if you'll look to the right on the screen that Sweta has shared with us, you'll use the hand signal to move your sticky notes around. But the first thing you want to do is select a sticky note. And you will see how to access that. I'm going to enlarge my screen too.
Okay.
And it'll be towards the top of the screen where you'll be able to pull down a sticky note to the right. And we're going to have a practice. We're going to do a practice set here before we get started on the questions that we'll walk you through tonight. So out of curiosity, and this is a selfish question, I want to know what's the favorite place in Apex to get a dessert? So what we want to do is have you click on the sticky note. You can click on it.
You click on the sticky note, you can select the color that you want and place it, and then it will show the cursor, so you can just type it in.
Yes. I'm going to go open mine too.
Has everybody logged in yet?
I'm logged in, but I'm still trying to get set up here.
So you may have to double click on your sticky note to type in it. And then you can enlarge the font. You can highlight and enlarge the font in it also once you have it. So go to the icon here that has sticky note. Double click on it. And then you can draw your note. So hold your mouse down. Click left, draw, hold it down to draw your sticky note and type away. And you use the hand signal to move it under the slide here. Oh, we've got some coming in. Are there any questions on how to access the sticky notes?
Yes, I'm still trying to find my sticky note.
So if you'll go to the top of your, in the middle of your screen, there's a hand signal, an up arrow, a scribble or a pen, highlighter, and then the sticky note that sits right before it says comment. Right in the middle up top.
Gotcha.
I think Cheryl's drawing, not typing, for what it's worth.
And Mayor, and then when after you clicked on the sticky note thing, see, I don't know if you can see can you see me there on the sticky note? Can you see my arrow?
Yes, we can see that.
Yeah, I was trying. So Mayor, once you click on it, then you click out into another space on the board, and your note will kind of follow you. So go back to the top.
And if this becomes a little awkward, you can place your responses in the chat box. We'll be monitoring that space also.
Yes, if that's easier for you, just type it in the chat box, or you can just talk as well, and we'll capture those notes here.
So it looks like Fresh is winning as the place to get dessert in town. So I'm curious, what does Fresh sell?
Ice cream place.
Okay. All right, so is everyone fairly comfortable with moving forward? Do we need to spend a few more minutes here?
I will be using the chat. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. That works for us. All right, if everybody else is good, we'll go to our first question. What about parks, recreation, cultural resources, and greenways makes your community better? As council members, you are often out talking with the public, and parks and recreation becomes a easy space to brag about. So when you're talking with your residents, or if you're out talking with visitors, what is it about parks and recreation that makes your community better? And you can start dropping your sticky notes and responses in the space below. And again, if you want to talk about it, that's fine. As Sweta said, we will capture those notes. Or if you want to drop them in the chat box, that works as well. All right, we have some responses coming in. It connects some residents, allows residents to enjoy outdoor spaces, programming options, community gatherings, programming for kids, sense of community, seeing community members getting outside, skate plaza, allows for the community to participate and learn in social and cultural activities, sports, or activities where people can enjoy and explore nature. staying active, learning, honoring special groups, youth, older adults, people with ability of mobility. All right, any more? Hold on, let's see. I think we have some more. So we have some, okay. So it looks like we have a couple that are moving ahead. All right, so are we good with the responses we have for our current question we're working on? Any more responses that need to be recorded? Any discussions that we want to have about those?
Yes, I had a question about maybe that second one. First one, I guess. Will the study and your benchmarking do a comparison of what nearby counties and municipalities spend on their parks and recreation? It's kind of a way to benchmark how we're doing funding wise compared to other places.
So for the benchmarking component, we will be using the National Parks Recreation Association's matrix. It's an industry standard where we will be looking at communities across the US, not just the communities that are next to Apex, for some of those recommendations.
That's great. Thanks.
All right, well, if there are no other comments for question one, we'll move on to our next question. What is your Parks, Recreation, Cultural Resources, and Greenways system known for? And we'll give you some time to answer that question also.
We are getting some really good answers here. APOC, the Cultural Arts Center, special events like Peak Fest, community center, high quality programming and great passive spaces. All great answers. For these questions, we are looking at everything positive about your parks, recreation, cultural resources, and greenway system, the strengths of the department, the strengths of the system, how it connects the community, how it connects neighbors to each other, how programming encourages people to define an identity for Apex.
All right, we've got some responses coming in. Healthy living resources, family and neighbor connections, high quality programming, great passive spaces, skate park, the Halley Cultural Arts Center, your festivals, community center being an early voting location, the historic downtown location, sports events, Halley, new greenways, Festival for the community, sports for kids, activities for all ages. At the community center, connection with nature on our greenways. Community engagement for volunteer coaching. All right, any other thoughts or discussions on what the system is known for? Did we capture all of the relevant information? All right. I see head nods, so we'll go on to our next question. And staff. Ooh, and great staff, great staff. Good add, good add. What would strengthen? Our next question, what would strengthen the department's positive impact on the town of Apex? If you think about any challenges that may exist or opportunities, what would strengthen the department's positive impact on the town? And we have a couple of responses in already. All right, let's see. We have providing activities and infrastructure that are not available in nearby municipalities or from private companies, larger investment in track out camps, type programming, investment in passive parks to serve as amenities, but also help accomplish environmental goals, connectivity, monthly cultural and educational events, inclusivity, providing full day kids programming for track out in summer, more teen programming. We're looking at commonalities here around track out, camp, full day kids programming. Infrastructure and investment. All right. Any thoughts on the responses received so far? And this is the area too, we want to think about gaps, you know, where are the gaps in programs, facilities, greenways, your parks? Where do those gaps exist in ways that can be identified here? Aquatic opportunities to serve communities with lack of access to pools. Had to get the end of it.
Sonia, I had a question real quick about your company and like, so how do you guys weigh what the community says they want and like maybe the gaps that we have in town versus your experience, I'm guessing throughout the country, maybe the world, of dealing with municipalities and their parks departments, and like I assume there's things that even people in Apex don't really know that we need yet, and you guys have the experience to kind of say what the trends are or what other places are doing far away from Apex.
Yes, there is a part of the plan that will discuss future trends, and those could be where some of the gaps have been identified, or programming that may not exist. As Sweta shared earlier, there'll be an analysis of the current programming level, and within that, gaps may also be identified, and be, included on the recommendation side of the actual plan itself.
And I guess a quick follow-up, do you have experience with advising other municipalities, and then have you been around long enough to know like what worked and didn't work in those other places pretty well too, at least in recent times?
Well, I'm new to the firm, but I've been in Parks and Rec for 30 years. So I kind of know what works and what doesn't, but we try to not only combine, our personal experiences and successes, and or failures experienced on the programming side, but we also try to support that with data, from current programming trends and reports that talk about where new programming areas are headed. So we try to balance all of that in the actual recommendations that you'll receive.
Okay, thank you very much.
Uh-huh. All right, let's see. Did we have any new ones coming in? We do. We've got, let's see, make sure I didn't miss anything on the board. Determine how we can have different levels of league, such as beginner, intermediate, and more experience. Is that towards the athletic leagues? Asking a follow-up question on that one, just to make sure we have clarity on it. Or are these more general programming areas or classes? So the question was related to one of the sticky notes that has determined how we can have different levels of leagues, such as beginner, immediate, more experienced. Just want to make sure that is only referencing athletics. Whomever added the, okay, I see a head nod. Okay, all right. Let's see what else we have on the board. We talked about staffing. All right, I think we've got those covered. Let me do one last scan. All right. All right, if there are no other discussions around that question, we're moving forward already to some of the biggest threats or challenges to those wonderful assets that you have identified. What are some of the biggest threats or challenges that you face? And that could be internally, it could be externally. Probably. So we've got some around staffing, accounting for maintenance, and staffing of existing assets when considering new projects. Increasing staff, high school student job opportunities during the summers, increased spacing for programs, needing permanent connections with different communities for cultural opportunities. Good responses coming in, limited facilities due to growing community. COVID safe programming. We learned that very quickly this past year. Skyrocketing costs to build parks. Very true. Limited facilities due to growing community. Any other threats? Underfunding of smaller neighborhood parks. Good, good, good. Keeping up with the pace of growth that has already been approved. Good responses. So we're seeing some commonalities here around funding, staffing levels, staffing increases needed, growth, skyrocketing costs. accountability for maintenance and staffing. Okay. Oh, we had one that came in the chat. Agreements with Wake County schools limit opportunities for programming. And aquatics opportunities, we talked about aquatics. Want to make sure I didn't miss that one. Multi-sports facility, indoor track and field, basketball, football. All right, any other thoughts around assets, threats, or challenges to the assets? None? Okay. And here's one, I'm not sure where this one is intended to go. We're a growing community that has an amazing opportunity to expand. So what we do on the next slide under summary of findings, we like to look at the commonalities that exist across the 4 previously raised questions. And in doing so, Sweta will start pulling over some of those common themes. But for you as a council, are there common themes that stand out to you? We've talked about great programming, great staff, challenges with funding, staffing levels, increasing costs, managing growth. I guess I just made that easy, right? It's supposed to be you all, not me.
Don't give them all the answers.
I know, right?
Maybe we open it up if everybody wants to maybe just have informal conversation about what we have noted down here, and I can capture that on our concept board.
So overall thoughts here on common themes across questions.
Yeah, I think I would just echo what you just said is when I think about our assets and the challenges we're facing in the future, I think a lot about the growth that we're currently experiencing in the western part of Apex and how the rate of building there is quickly going to outgrow our park and other amenity capacity for these new residents. And that's not a great place to be in if you're a new resident. You move into a town, you're paying taxes, and there's nothing nearby. And the challenges that we have to catch up. You know, we have some parks, you know, on the backlog, so to speak. They have to be built, and they got to get staffed, and we got to get some programming in place, and that's going to be a challenge for the next decade or so.
All right. Yes. Good mention of that.
Nicole, I would also say that I think people do want a lot of things. They just enhance their quality of life. But I think that I think there is a recognition, needs to be more recognition that these things cost money. And so, you know, people need to figure out how to balance what they want in their community and the willingness to pay for it and when we're going to pay for it. So, you know, I'm thinking about the senior center. It took a whole 8 years to continue to talk about it and express the value in what it means to have a senior community center in a community like ours. And the longer you wait, the more it costs, and then people aren't able to use it, but they've been in what I call paying in advance. They've been paying fees, they've been paying taxes, and so I'd rather pay my fair share and get a lot of things to increase my quality of life and keep me in my community. I just think people have to decide when they want things that it costs something, and with COVID-19, it's costing even more, and we delay, it costs more too.
Those,
Yeah, I would agree. This, I'm sorry, this is Cheryl just chiming in and piggybacking on what Mayor Pro Tem said. I think a lot of it has to do with messaging, you know, how we really message to the community with education and sort of repetitive messaging. I think it's part of the key to this.
very true. And one of the projects previously that we worked on, one of the activities that we use in the public meetings in trying to talk through findings and recommendations moving forward was an actual activity where we gave residents 10 chips, $1 million each, or maybe $5 million each, and listed the facilities that they had expressed an interest in early on in that process. And that was an educational piece for them to understand what we had the cost and everything laid out for them. So you could choose where your chips were. People oftentimes talk about pools and aquatics and wanting them, but just don't realize the costs that are associated with them. So the activity helped really educate about the cost of your large capital projects and put people in the seat of council and basically said, you got a decision to make now. Where are you going to spend your money? And it was good, it was informative, and it was certainly one that helped the education piece, as you said. Things are expensive, and when you're juggling so many things at once and so many priorities, it helps people to understand what you deal with as a council trying to make those prioritization decisions also. So those are helpful exercises throughout the process too that we have used in the past that really help educate people about what it costs to, and that's just the capital side. We hadn't even gotten to the day-to-day operational piece. That's just the capital side of it. So it was a good exercise. Other common themes, or were there any surprises here for you? Anything that stood out? Or are these just things that you all know exist?
I would just like to say, I mean, these are things that we see from our view, but we know that the staff, what they experience every day. I mean, it'd be interested to know really what they experience and what their demands are and some of the challenges they have. I mean, many of the challenges I'm sure they have that we don't even know about. So
Can I respond to that?
Yes, please, Jen.
Sure. Yes, I thought this has been really interesting because a lot of what y'all said mimics what the staff had said. So it's interesting to see that you're all on the same wavelength, and that is a positive thing.
Yeah, lots of commonalities, as Jen said, around the staffing, limited staffing, challenges with maintaining at the current levels, maintaining parks and facilities at the current staffing levels, funding. What were some of the other top ones that stood out, Jen, that you recall?
Closing greenway gaps, making improvements to support infrastructure at current parks, like restroom improvements, and enhancing, again, with, we call it support infrastructure, which are, you know, restrooms, comfort stations, facilities. The staff was really interested in getting a what is it called, a boat like storage, a boat storage. It's late, y'all, I'm sorry. But yes, you will be presented with the results of all those things. My major point is that I think it's really interesting, and I think it's a positive thing that town council's values are lining up with the staff in the town. So I think that says a lot about the good work that y'all do.
Yeah. And apparently messaging is taking place if it's aligning. So
Kudos to you
That's
all
awesome.
for that. What was that?
No, I said that's awesome. Well done.
Good. All right, Sweta, any new responses here?
I think we captured them in the discussion. I don't see anything new popping up, but we can take the time if you all want to go back to any of the questions and reflect on any of the findings.
All right, sounds like that could be a wrap.
All right.
Brett's nodding his head.
All right.
All right, well, we really, really appreciate your time.
And so quick wrap up of this presentation. What is coming up next? We have ways to go. This is just the beginning of our process. So there are multiple components just in the community engagement piece of this. We, as I said earlier, we attended the Peak Fest as a special event. We had our first virtual open house. Today is our asset mapping session with you all and getting to know all of you at the beginning of this process. There is a statistically valid survey component that will be coming up in the next couple of months. So those surveys will go out to randomly selected residents in Apex. So we get unbiased feedback from the community, especially from the residents who don't typically engage in these types of engagement efforts. We will have, throughout the process, we'll have another community engagement event, attendance at another special event that will be probably in the spring of 2022, sometime that framework. We also have 4 meetings coming up for focus groups. So we'll be working with the staff to identify those focus groups and work with them, similar exercises to get their feedback on different components of Parks and Rec. And then with you all, we'll be meeting with you all, as I said, throughout the process. Today was our kickoff meeting with you all. We'll be meeting with you, share the findings of our assessment and initial community engagement, and then share with you the preliminary recommendations before they are finalized for adoption. So multiple checkpoints with you all. And with that, we can wrap up our presentation. Really appreciate your time and your feedback for today's session. And thank you all so much. I see we have
We've got one question from Mr. Gant.
Yes.
Yeah, if I had maybe more a comment than a question, if I had my way, I guess, I think some kind of crazy ideas as part of this report that maybe a future council will say, no way, we're never going to do that. But I'd love to hear kind of, besides just national best practices and unique ideas, but even international, to see what we could bring to Apex that maybe would be unique to the area. I'd be really interested in hearing those kind of ideas.
That's a great feedback, and that would be part of our program. We want to make sure while the community values are reflected through that is one of the value. We want to make Apex in line with what 21st century parks and recreation system looks like. And so through our assessment, those will be some of the ideas that we will be brainstorming on. So appreciate that feedback from you.
Thank you. Great.
Mayor Pro Tem Dozier has a comment or question.
Thank you, Mayor Gilbert. I just had a question. It's maybe more for staff related to the focus groups and how people will be selected. How will you make sure that there's a diverse group of people from diversity from different perspectives?
Shweta, do you want to go ahead and give them an idea of what we're working on?
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
I will. So I'll be working with Angela and Craig on making sure we develop an equitable
process for our focus groups. Right now, there's dialogue around the focus groups being broken down by topic or interest area. But within that listing, there still has to be outreach to diversify the group. So I'll be working with Angela and Craig on that and making sure we do have a representative group that has been extended the invitation to be a part of the focus group meetings.
I guess a follow-up would be, Mr. Mayor, is what type of diversity, I guess, that you'll be looking for in the focus group?
I think it would be a mix, be it ethnic background, age, gender, abilities. We want to make sure we're inclusive in this process.
I would like to offer socioeconomic status as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is Angela. I also, one of the things that we've been trying to do in creating our list is through some of our earlier survey work that we did with our neighborhood parks and with outreach that we've done to our adjacent communities, because Holly Springs recently completed their master plan update. Town of Cary did what I would call a mini mid-year update on theirs, and Chatham County has recently updated their master plan. We have some agencies and groups that were identified in those processes that we're trying to find a point of contact. We also have gathered people's who have expressed interest, and one of our goals is to find people who do not participate currently or use our greenways or visit or attend any of our programs, and ensuring that if there's a reason why, we're reaching out to them and getting them involved in the process to see what we can offer or how we can promote or offer that our opportunities for those who do not, so we can get more people to be involved in all of the things that we have available.
All right, thank you. I just have one more thing to add, and we'll end. I would be interested to know the benefits or challenges around private and public partnerships when it comes to Parks and Rec. If that's a road we want to go down for facilities and as we expand into the future. So if we could add that.
That's a great feedback, Mr. Mayor. I think the Parks and Recreation system these days are focusing on how we can leverage partnerships that we have within the community and creating a win-win situation with clear understanding of policies in place to make sure everybody's role is clear within those and make sure that's beneficial mutually. And one party does not get overburdened by the agreements. And I think that will be, as part of the best practices in our scope, we will be including some information on the public-private partnerships.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions or comments before we end? All right, hearing none. Oh, we have one. Councilmember Stallings.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Just curious, you may have said this, but what's the timeline on this, the assessment phase of this?
So the assessment phase takes the longest time. The overall project is 12 to 15 month timeline. So the end of the project would be ideally December 2022, but the initial front loading of this assessment will be 4 to 6 months of time frame.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that was the last one. Again, we're thankful for the whole entire McAdams team. Thank you so much for taking your time with us, and there's more to come, we understand. So I appreciate you partnering with us. Mr. Setzer or Ms. Ranke, anything else from you?
Thanks for taking the time to hear their presentation tonight and giving your input. I'm looking forward to the rest of the process and I think it's going to be great for Apex. So providing our future.
Thank you, sir.
I'll echo that. The other thing, just as a reminder, our public input survey is available on a link from our town's website. It's live now. It's open until October 24th. We're closing in on just shy of 500 surveys since it went live on the 7th. And we've been doing some promotion through our emails and social media sites and websites. So there's lots of links out there. If you cannot find them, let me know, and I'm happy to send you a way to keep promoting it so we can get as much public involvement as we can. And I appreciate your time. Thanks again.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so
everyone.
much.
Have a good rest of your week.
Take
Thank
care.
you. You too.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Bye.
All right. To my council colleagues, I don't have anything else on the agenda. I will say that it's been a great meeting, and Assistant Manager Sean Purvis predicted that we'll be out of here at 8 o'clock, so he's 7 minutes over. But anyways, it's been a great night, and y'all enjoy. Thank you for everything. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.